Chapter 28. Uncle is in a hurry. It was on the little canal bridge that the event happened. The gardens come to an end there, and you have to cross over and double back by another path. It is only a narrow footbridge, and you can't possibly meet people you know and not see them. Probably, as Joan and Alice decided afterwards, Uncle didn't want not to see her. The lady was coming straight towards them, and she had on a nurse's uniform with the Red Cross. Also she had dark, laughing eyes, and was very pretty. The next the children heard was, "Well, I never!" Uncle had stopped and was shaking hands with her, and they both seemed ever so pleased to see each other. That was all, for Mother called sharply, "Come on, children, Uncle has met a friend," and they had to turn round by some shrubs and leave Uncle and the nurse talking together in the middle of the bridge. They must have had a lot to say, because it was quite 10 minutes before Uncle rejoined them, and by then the children had looked at a whole house full of sleepy, ring-tailed things like monkeys, which Mother said were lemurs, and were often kept as pets. When Uncle came in, the children were all crowded round the anteater. But of course they couldn't expect him to say anything about that until he had spoken to Mother. They caught the words hospital and "oh, everything," and Alice turned triumphantly to Joan with, "I told you so." It soon appeared that she was right, and the girls were more excited than ever to think that he should meet his nurse here, in the zoo of all places. But there was more to come. Uncle, it seemed, had asked Nurse to lunch with them and be introduced to Mother, and they were all to meet by the lawn at 1 o'clock. It was as well, perhaps, that the anteater wanted a lot of attention. Phil needed time to think, and Kitty was more than half inclined to cry. Of course, he was their uncle, yet he had been badly hurt, and Nurse must have been very kind to him, and perhaps but for her they might not have had him at all. So it was only fair. They decided to make up their minds at lunchtime. Meanwhile, Uncle was saying, "Funny-looking chap, isn't he? Almost like a bundle of hay when he's rolled up. I wonder if we can get him to show his tongue." The anteater seemed very sleepy. The children were not surprised when Uncle said he was a near relative of the sloth. As he spoke, the creature slowly unrolled, and they saw that he had a stiff, bushy tail, almost as big as his body, and a long head tapering to a point at the mouth. A little different from the hippo's mouth, eh? There is only just room for his tongue to come through. I wish he would show us. So Wally put out his tongue. The anteater did not seem to think much of it. "Look, he's got a worm," cried Joan. "No, that's his tongue. He is obliging us after all. He lives almost entirely on ants. First, with those sharp claws, he pulls down their nests, which in South America are often very large. Out pour the ants to see what is the matter, and he just flicks that saliva-covered tongue here, there, and everywhere, until there is scarcely one left. Sometimes he will use his tail as a brush to stir them up. There is another kind of anteater which lives in the trees, holding on by its tail, as the spider monkeys do. But they are not so strange as their friends, the sloths, some of which you see here. These pass all their lives hanging upside down." "Are they always asleep?" asked Alice. "By no means, only during the day. They get about quite a lot at night. You will notice how close their coats resemble a damp lichen-covered bough. You could pass through a forest with scores of sloths and never see one. But we must get along, or we shan't see all this part of the gardens before lunch, and we shall not want to come all the way back, shall we?" The children glanced at each other. Even Mother was smiling. Uncle seemed in a great hurry. Yet it was only a little while ago that he had said he was not hungry. So they looked at the lovely pheasants with their gorgeous colouring, and then came to the blinkers. That was what Uncle called them, but of course the children knew they were owls, because a barn owl lived in the hollow oak at the bottom of their garden, and they often heard him at night, and had several times seen him. Once when Phil went out after supper to bring in his cricket bat, he had seen two great greenish eyes looking down at him, and felt rather frightened. But when he picked up a stone to throw, he remembered the owl, and that Dad had said it was not to be disturbed, as it did useful work in ridding them of rats and mice. "There are a great many kinds of owls," said Uncle, "but only two are commonly found in Great Britain. One is your friend the barn owl, with its pansy face. The other is the tawny owl, which sings to-wit to-woo, just as people are going to sleep. All owls are birds of prey, with sharp beaks and claws, and large forward-looking eyes, that take in every glint of light, for all their hunting is done at night. The fiercest and boldest is the eagle owl, which will even attack young fawns. Then there is also a snowy owl, entirely white, because it lives in the Arctic regions. Many people used to look at owls as birds of ill omen, or as evil spirits, but others, like the Greeks, made the owl the emblem of wisdom. If you were ever to handle a dead owl, you would be surprised to find how small its body really is, little larger than a pigeon's. All the rest is plumage. The feathers of most birds are stiff, but the owl's are light and fluffy, so that it makes absolutely no noise in flying, and takes its victims by surprise. "I don't like their faces," said Kitty. The feathers again. Owls are almost alone among birds in having their ruffs. They seem to want to pack every square inch with feathers. But some species are fishers, and these have bare legs. Now we must get on, for there are one or two other animals we must see before we go through the tunnel. Again the children looked at one another. They had never been hurried like this before, and they did want to stop and look at the cranes, and at the poor shoebill, who lived in a little house all by himself, and seemed so dreadfully lonely. Then they glanced at and smelt the civets, which they thought rather like the cat in Alice in Wonderland, and recrossed the canal by another bridge to the kangaroo's enclosure. And here the girls determined, whatever Uncle said, to stop as long as they wanted, for the kangaroos hopped straight towards them, and it would surely be bad manners for them to hop away.